Alright, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? DSP here. Welcome to my day 2 of my E3 coverage. Today we have 2 major press conferences to talk about, and I have just finished live watching the Microsoft, of course they called it the Xbox press event, whatever you want to call it, alright? Microsoft this year covered a wide range of stuff. They had a lot of console exclusives. They had a few cross-platform games that they covered. They focused very heavily on new hardware, which we're going to start off with here in a moment. So there's a lot to cover. Their press conference took almost 2 hours. I think it was like 1 hour 47 minutes or something like that. So we'll see how it goes, and we'll go from there. But let's cover it here. Let's start going because we got so much to talk about. 5 pages of notes. All right. So first off, the event opens with Phil Spencer, of course. Phil Spencer, I do have to say this. I got to compliment the guy. This guy is charismatic, he's interesting, and he presents very well. Unlike a lot of these other presenters who come out and just seem very stale or zombie-like, or they're like too into it, he's got the right level of chill for the event, and he's been presenting for, several years now. He does a good job, so Phil Spencer, thumbs up again as a presenter. I think that he does a good job, all right? So he comes out already with a bombshell. He immediately... Oh, wait a minute. Is there echo? I just want to make sure there's no echo here. Because someone said, oh, there's an echo. No, wait a minute. Is there echo? Now there is. Now there's not anymore. There we go. Sorry. I think my stupid Twitch page refreshed on me. There we go. Okay. So no echo. Immediately, Phil Spencer drops a bomb on everyone. See what I have below me here? Project Scorpio, which is what we've been calling this new upcoming Xbox console that we've been expecting for a long time. And, when is it coming or whatever. Guess what? It's not called Project Scorpio. So he gives the new name. I just want to let you know, I'm not setting up a joke, alright? This is actually the name that Microsoft is going with for the new Xbox console. It is called the Xbox One X. Therefore, any game that's going to be like a 4K resolution exclusive game is going to be an Xbox One X exclusive. Xbox One X exclusive, XOXX. Oh my, like, seriously, do they not test? Do they not ask? Like, there's no way. I mean, seriously, there's no way that Microsoft market tested that name and people came back to them and said, that's a good name. Because now you've got the Xbox One, the Xbox One S, the Xbox One X. Good luck if you're a fucking parent this holiday season and your kid wants an Xbox console. I really feel bad for you. I don't know how the hell you're going to get the right one. I really don't. Because you know what's going to happen. You're going to go to the store, and the one that everyone wants is sold out, and they're going to tell you, no, this is an Xbox One S. That's what your kid wants, right? No, I think it was X. No, it's S. Well, X kind of sounds like S, so maybe I just got it wrong. Okay, I'll buy the S, and it's the wrong fucking console. Unbelievable. Really stupid, in my opinion. Terrible name for it, okay? Anyway. So first of all, he announces it will be released November 7th, so we finally have a release date for this console. Then they immediately go into tech specs that no one cares about. 6 teraflops on the processor, 12 gigabytes of dedicated RAM, 326 kilobits per second of a bandwidth. We don't care. We just want to know about what games are on it, right? And how the games are going to look. So Phil Spencer actually says a few things that people were wondering. He was like, gee, will it play 4K Blu-rays? Yes, it has a built-in 4K Blu-ray player. Right there, that adds value to the console, right? Because 4K Blu-ray players right now cost a couple $100. So boom, instant value added to the console. Completely backwards compatible with every single Xbox One game, and all the accessories for Xbox One will work with the X. So you don't have to go buy a new controller and a new fucking, anything you bought, any peripheral or whatever, should be working with the Xbox One X. I'm just going to call it the fucking X, because I can't say that name anymore. I'm embarrassed for myself to have to fucking say that stupid name. And he also mentioned that even the Xbox One games that don't necessarily have a 4K upgrade, or if you don't have a 4K TV, even Xbox One games should still look better if you play them on the X. Okay, so for me at least, that's like he's trying to sell it to me because I don't have a 4K TV. I have no plans to buy a 4K TV. So if I were going to get the X, what's the selling point? For him, he's saying, well, the games will look better anyway. Okay. There's a liquid, it has a liquid cooler, vapor chamber built in. Now, basically, he's throwing out all this PC tech stuff for PC techies who build their own PCs. And he's trying to explain, this is going to have a lot of the technology and core features and craftsmanship built into it like a PC would have. There's an optimized power management system that was designed exclusively by a Microsoft employee, and they actually named it after the employee or something like that. Again, the common gamer doesn't care, but if you're really looking to upgrade to a higher powered console, maybe you care about that, okay? But something that actually was kind of surprising about the announcement is that it's the smallest Xbox ever. Yeah, and they show it. It actually is. It's smaller than any of the Xbox One models. It's actually smaller than the Xbox 360. They actually streamlined this thing to be very, very small. So, I don't know. They put more power and less space. I mean, that's a positive for me. I wouldn't want a giant console. The Xbox One, it looks like a fucking giant... It looks like one of those old-ass VCRs. It's so big. So, the smaller the better. That was a positive, okay? Oh, and then finally, he says, oh, and yes, games are all going to be running a smooth 60 frames per second on the Xbox One. And we're all like, okay, now, you can say that, but the proof is in the pudding, so I hope you're going to have some stuff to back it up. Ladies and gentlemen, I hate to say this, there was not one gameplay trailer, one piece of gameplay, nothing at that Microsoft press conference that ran at 60 frames per second. I'm going to repeat myself. Nothing ran at 60 frames per second. So he's touting that all the games that are going to be on the X are going to run at 60 frames. And then they proceeded to show 0 games running at 60 frames per second. So, again, are you going to spend money on a console for just slightly better resolution if you have a 4K TV, or slightly improved graphics if you don't, and not get any additional frame rate? I don't know. I mean, for me, if they really said 60 frames on everything, that would have been great, but nope. At least on the stream that everyone was watching, everything showed at 30 frames. I'm just saying, okay? Okay, so now on to the games. The first game they show, it's Forza 7, and they show, oh my god, it's Forza 7. They're out in the desert, and then they get in a car, and they're driving their fucking, their Formula 1 cars and all that. Big deal. And then he says, okay, we've got a real car here. It's the first time anyone in the world will see this car in person. It's a new Porsche car. And they bring out this Porsche car. Then they got these 2 girls who walk up, and they're really race car or stunt car drivers in real life. They're going to play the game and drive the Porsche cars right now. And they're doing it. And I'm like, first of all, game only showed at 30 frames per second. Forza has always only run at 30 frames per second on console, I believe. So I don't know how this is a good demo for this new console. And really didn't show anything that was anything new. And then they announced the game is coming out October 3rd. And then he says, oh yeah, and it's in full 60 frames per second. But it wasn't in the fucking stream. So everyone's like, huh? So it was very confusing. Alright, Phil Spencer says, there's 42 new games we're going to cover in this press conference, and 22 of them are actually going to be Microsoft exclusives or timed exclusives. We'll get them first before anybody else does, okay? So then they start going into the games. The first one was Metro Exodus, a new Metro game. The graphics did look really good until I realized that basically they were simulating in-game footage, and it really looked like it was pre-rendered. It basically just looks exactly like Metro. You use your lighter to burn cobwebs, you're fighting things hand-to-hand, use your guns to shoot things, it's got the big mutated monsters. Pretty much standard Metro fare, but it's nice to know there's a new Metro game coming out, but that one didn't have a release date. Then they showed Assassin's Creed Origins. Alright, this one's set in Egypt, and it shows that there's some new things in the game. For example, there might be like giant monsters, like there's a giant snake you have to fight at some point. They added RPG elements to the game this time around. So, for example, you'll go to a certain area, and maybe you'll take out a couple guards, but if you go this one path, oh my god, all the enemies are level 11, but you're only level 8. Therefore, they say, oh, that's danger. That's like a red mob in an RPG where you go around open world roaming, and you realize, oh, they're like too high level for me. That's kind of what they were saying. Oh, that mob's too high level. You don't want to take them on. You want to find an alternate route to get through where you're going now. And obviously, that's a brand new element for Assassin's Creed. They've never done anything like that before. You can now control a hawk that can swoop around and basically spy out enemies and target and tag enemies for you, so you know where they are on the map. I don't know if the hawk has any other abilities, but maybe it does. Characters and weapons now have levels. I already mentioned the characters, but weapons too. Apparently weapons can level up. You can upgrade them and do stuff like that. There's now an active dodge and sidestep. Now, previously in Assassin's Creed Combat, yeah, you could do like a dodge roll, but it was really slow and it wasn't incredibly effective. Now the dodge is like a full-on swoosh, like a sidestep swoosh, so you can completely dodge, attacks. And it seems like the combat engine has been majorly refined because of the addition of this new dodge. And then, they announced their release date, which we already knew. I think we already knew it was going to be October 27th, so the end of October for Assassin's Creed Origins. But by the way, again, 30 frames per second. Just saying, they claimed it was running on the X, but it was only showing at 30 frames per second on the stream. Then they start talking about Mixer, and they kept mentioning Mixer over the course of the press conference. For those who don't know, Mixer used to be a streaming service called Beam, all right? I guess Microsoft is trying to push it. Maybe they either have a partnership or they own it. I have no idea. Nobody uses it. I'm going to say that again. Almost no one uses it. Everyone who wants to stream gameplay uses Twitch, and they're trying to be a direct competitor, and they're not going to win, and it's a waste of time. So them shoving it down our throats a million times during the press conference was just more obtrusive and annoying than anything else. No one uses Mixer, and no one's going to. Alright, then they showed off a game called PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. I know nothing about this. It's basically some kind of a third-person shooter action game. Honestly, it looked pretty generic. Didn't look great. There's vehicles involved, so you could be driving on like a motorbike or a car and be shooting out of the window. It looked, if you like third-person shooters, okay, but it didn't really look anything like, wow, and the graphics kind of looked outdated. It didn't look great to me. It just kind of like a game. Okay, that's nice. But apparently it's coming out as an Xbox One X exclusive. I shouldn't have said that. I should have said an X. Even saying X exclusive sounds bad. An X exclusive. Anyway, it's supposedly coming out as the new console exclusive. I guess it's timed. I guess they're going to try to put it on everything, but it's going to be on the X first. Okay. Deep Rock Galactic is another new game. It's about dwarves who are kind of in space with futuristic tools, and they're mining, kind of like, think Minecraft, but then or Minecraft, or I would also say No Man's Sky, but then there's actually monsters that come out of the walls, and you have to do, like, group combat to kill the monsters and stuff like that. But the one thing that was kind of shocking about it was the visual style. It seemed like it was really purposely made to be simplistic. Everything was blocky. There weren't really, like, textures or anything on anything. So I don't know how people are going to feel about that visual style. Some people might really like it, and some people might be taken aback by it. But it seems like a co-op mining exploration combat game. Okay. State of Decay 2. Got some actual, trailer footage of it. Looks like the graphics are great. Looks like they added some new things to the game. But really, it didn't show any real gameplay, so it's hard to say. And that's coming out spring 2018, State of Decay 2. Hopefully we get more information on that, because they really didn't talk too much about it. Then there was a game called The Darwin Project, which started off weird, because it almost looked like it was going to be a game like Don't Starve, where you're surviving out in the forest. But then all of a sudden, people were shooting each other with bows. It was really confusing. And then all of a sudden, an announcer guy comes out. He's completely bald, but he's got a hipster long-ass beard, and he starts screaming, "Oh my god, did you see that? Now there's only 2 people left, and now one guy's gonna sneak up on him from behind and sneak through the window and attack him from behind. Oh my god, look at that! Oh, he doesn't have a chance!" And everyone's like, what the fuck is going on? Is this like, what is this? So I think what it's supposed to be is kind of like the Hunger Games, where it's a bunch of people on a multiplayer map, and they use stealth abilities and things to try to pick each other off one by one, deathmatch style. It didn't honestly look like anything amazing. Graphics looked kind of outdated, but this is, I guess, a game that they wanted to push, so okay, whatever. The guy was obnoxious, that was for sure. Then there was a giant Minecraft segment. So most of you can leave the room now for about 5 minutes, because I'm going to talk about Minecraft, but you know what I mean? Like, Minecraft, the game, that was cool in 2012, they're still pushing this shit. So what are they doing new for Minecraft? First of all new content coming this summer. It's going to be cross-platform now. It's going to have DLC content. New worlds are coming out for Minecraft. All this shit. Minecraft, right? And then they announced a new look for Minecraft. The new super-duper high-resolution textures pack for people with 4K TVs and who are going to buy the X console. You'll have the best-looking Minecraft ever. And then they try to show it, and it literally looks exactly like the existing Minecraft. Like, it doesn't look any better. Because Minecraft's pixelated as fuck anyway, it's not going to look better in 4K. I mean, it was such a stupid thing. So, I just got to shake my head, and I'm like, I don't know what they were trying to do. I don't know if they were, you know, but it didn't work. Whatever they were trying to do didn't work. You did not sell me on buying Minecraft for a millionth time or playing it on a new console. Minecraft is Minecraft. You don't need to advertise it anymore. It has an installed user base that's going to keep playing it, but for the mainstream gamer, Minecraft is old fucking news, and they really need to stop. I think it's because they spent so much fucking money buying it from Notch that they realize they still got to try to make money from this fucking thing, but I don't know. Really silly. Okay, up next, finally something that they talked about that got the crowd going. The new Dragon Ball Z fighting game, which you might have heard heavily rumored, it leaked actually that this game was coming out. I believe it's made by Arc Systems, the same people who made like the Guilty Gear franchise. We've now confirmed it is 2D artwork. It is not like 3D characters in a 2D environment, say like Street Fighter 4 or 5. No, it's 2D hand-drawn artwork, so it actually looks like anime. And it's got all your favorite DBZ characters, the different versions of the Saiyans, the different Boos, Cell, you know, they showed everyone. Frieza, they showed all the classic DBZ characters are going to be in it. It's going to be a 3-on-3 fighter, apparently, where you can tag in and out during the game, which is pretty cool. It looks neat. It looks neat to me. It's definitely a game I'm interested in, and they said that's coming out early 2018, so I'm interested in looking at that. And by the way, that was the first game where the crowd actually, like, popped for it, okay? They actually got excited. And we're like, wow, this is kind of cool. And it's called DB Fighter Z. I know everyone's going to have a tough time saying that one too. DB Fighter Z. Because we're so used to saying DBZ, right? Now we're going to say DB Fighter Z. Alright, the next game they showed off was a game called Black Desert. This is already an existing MMO on PC. However, I've never seen it. For me, what looks cool about this MMO is the combat style seems a lot more action-oriented than typical MMOs that are like turn-based, slow-moving, kind of boring. This one looked like you were big, giant, epic-looking combos and effects, and even magicians were like doing combo magic and stuff that looked like it was more action and timing-based than anything else. But I don't know much about it. I've never played Black Desert. That game's supposedly coming out early 2018 on the X. Then they showed The Last Night. This game looked interesting to me. A combination of pixelated graphics, think like Secret of Monkey Island, games like that, with a futuristic setting, kind of like almost Blade Runner, or there was this game back in the day called Flashback, a game like that, it kind of looks like, where you're futuristic tech, but it almost is like 1980s futuristic, you know, everything's neon and stuff like that. And it looks like it might be a game like Secret of Monkey Island. It looks like it's going to have puzzles and stuff and characters that you talk to and stuff like that. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But it looked pretty good. And that's a game that I may be interested in coming up called The Last Night. Alright? Then they showed off a game. I don't know what the fuck it was. They didn't even make an effort to explain what their game was. It was basically a bunch of hipsters walking through a street. And it was like 2D artwork, kind of stylized. Almost think about like a Tim Schafer game. That's kind of how the artwork looked like the Broken Age games. And this guy's walking. All of a sudden now he transforms into a robot suit. Then all of a sudden, he starts jetpacking. Then all of a sudden, a guitar appears in his hands, and he starts playing a guitar riff like a crazy solo. And then all of a sudden, it shows like his face is getting close to the camera and explodes. It's like this big hallucination of LSD tripping drugs. I don't know what the fuck it was. It was really fucking weird. And they said, oh, The Artful Escape, coming out when it's damn ready. Okay? If you're going to promote a game at E3, usually it helps if you tell us what the game is. I'm just saying. And that trailer, although it piqued my interest for how weird the trailer was, it didn't explain what the game is, so I don't know if it really did its job. Okay. And then there's a game coming out, if you're not aware, from the makers of Dark Souls. Yes, From Software are making a game that's much more anime stylish. It's got very anime-looking characters in it with armor and big, giant anime-ish weapons. It definitely doesn't look like Dark Souls-style gameplay either. It's called Code Vein. But we really don't have a lot of information about this game. I'm assuming maybe there will be a lot of information coming out at E3 this week about this game. But it's coming out in early 2018. But I can't really tell you from watching the trailer, like, what it is. It's combat, definitely, because they're fighting enemies and stuff. But it didn't really... It was more about, like, showing off the flashiness of the anime style than actually the core gameplay mechanics, excuse me. So I can't really speak to what the game will be when it actually releases. Alright. Okay. Now people are saying it's not From Software, it's Bandai Namco. Then why, when I was watching it, was everyone telling me that it was from Software? People are now telling me it's not. It's Bandai Namco. Okay, so everyone lied to me when I was watching the press conference then, because everyone in the stream chat was telling me it's From Software, and now everyone's saying it's not. Okay, then it's not. It's a totally different franchise. Maybe that's why it didn't look like a From Software game then. Alright. Alright, let's do a few shout-outs, because we actually need some shout-outs. For people who've been doing stuff during this video. Hold on. Alright, so... shout out to Musas. Well, actually, I don't think I did this one. Zebra subscribed to the channel for the 6th month in a row and earned his golden crown. Musas Planet did the 2nd month in a row subscribing to the channel. Thank you, Musas Planet. Sonic Weed did a 10-bit cheering. Says that someone who was presenting the new console almost said X-Bone. Big Tone 995 did a $2 tip. It says Xbox One X paid and brought to you by Pornhub. I know, just think about that. Xbox One X exclusive. XOXX. It sounds like triple X. I don't know, man. Niche 2440 tipped me $1 and said footage was probably 30 frames per second because it was in 4K. Simultaneous 4K and 60 frames per second would be impossible. That's great. Then why did Phil Spencer say the games are going to be in 4K and 60 frames per second? You know what I mean? Like, if that's the selling point of the console, then why say it and not be able to show it? Then don't say it. Then say that. Say, well, the games are either 4K or 60 frames per second. Don't say both, and then proceed to only present games in 30 frames per second for the rest of the press conference. It makes you look like a jackass. I'm just saying. Team Gardenator did a 10-bit cheer, and he says the Twitch source said that the stream was 1080p and 60 frames per second, but the stream was 30 frames per second. Again, okay, if that's the case, that's Microsoft's fault. It's their job to make sure that their press conference is broadcasting at 60 frames per second everywhere, because if you're showing off 60-frame games, you need people to know they're 60 frames. The stream was not in 60 frames. So that's Microsoft's fault. That's their fail. And shout out to Ponage101, who just resubscribed to the channel for the 7th month in a row. I thank you very much, Ponage, for resubscribing. Thank you, thank you. Okay. Now, let's get to the second half of the Microsoft press conference. All right. So next, they showed a game that they've been showing for the past couple of years. Finally, for the first time, we get to see actual, like, I don't know if it was simulated, but in-game footage of the game Sea of Thieves. And they actually dedicated a large portion of time to this game. I'd say probably around 5 to 10 minutes of in-game footage. So how did it start off? It started off showing that you're on a pirate ship. All right, it's first person, and everyone's a pirate. All your friends are pirates or whatever. Everyone jumped into the water. They were swimming. All of a sudden, the shark showed up, so they all got back on the boat. Then they went to an island. They boarded the island. They were running around the island. Oh, here's some loot. They dig, and they dug up a treasure chest, and they found loot. Then they went to a cave, and then they showed off there will be combat in the game. There were skeletons that came out of the ground, like undead skeletons, so they all pulled out guns, and in first person, they were shooting these skeletons. So then they found a treasure map, and the treasure map said there's big treasure inside the cave, so they went into the cave, and there was treasure that they found, but then more skeletons appeared, so they fought the skeletons. Then they outran the skeletons and ran back to their boat and jumped onto their boat. There's a big shootout with skeletons down at the seaside, and then finally reboarded the boat. If you don't get my kind of pattern here, skeletons, 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 that was the only real kind of enemy that they showed in the game. But then they also wanted to show that there was more to the game than that. Then they were on the boat, and all of a sudden another ship showed up, and they engaged in a firefight of shooting cannonballs back and forth. And then when they kind of reached a stalemate, what they did is they put their bodies into the cannons and launched each other to each other's boats. So they were having duels on each other's boats, going back and forth in hand-to-hand combat, but also there was shooting. So basically what they're telling you is it's going to be a big world that's going to have other people in it. So as you're playing, sure, you'll be doing stuff with your friends, but also there'll be other people playing together that may be trying to steal your loot or whatever, and you're going to have these kind of epic sea duels, all right? So what did I think about it overall? Quite honestly, I didn't hate it, but at the same time, for me, I just kind of felt underwhelmed. Like, I was like, okay, this is pretty much exactly what I expected, because it's pirates, and there's only so much you can do with a pirate formula. You know what I mean? It's not like there's any gameplay elements in the game you've never seen before, and I don't know, like, for me, that's the kind of game, I'll say this, much like Destiny, much like, what was it, what was that game last year that Ubisoft came out with that no one plays anymore, that I skipped, I can't remember the name of it, like any of these co-op games, this may be a game that's great because you get 4 friends together, right? And you're dicking around in the stream chat, you're joking with each other, you're poking at each other, you're giving each other a hard time, and then you do these cooperative goals together, and, you know, that's cool, and I can see why that would be fun. But is this a game on its own, just on its own merits of the things you do in the game, going to be a game that massively holds your interest for an extended period of time? Or is it going to be more about the social experience you get with your friends while you're playing a kind of mediocre game? And that's kind of the question I have to pose there, because nothing that I saw in the game was like, wow, I'm dying to do that. It was more like, wow, okay, this is busy work I'll be doing while I'm playing with my friends. You know what I mean? So I could be wrong, but that's just what I'm saying, all right? Tacoma, this is a game that we've heard about for 2 freaking years. It's supposed to be like a first-person exploration game. You're in space, and I guess what happens is you go onto this abandoned space station. You don't know where everyone is, and there's like these AIs and automated messages that play that kind of give you an idea of what happened on this space station. I don't know. I mean, it looks all right. It releases August 2nd. They finally gave it a release date. I'll probably end up checking it out, but it certainly, again, doesn't look like something super amazing that blew me away. There's a new platformer game coming out. It's called Super Lucky's Tale. You play a fox that does kind of platforming gameplay. Think combination, I say, like Banjo-Kazooie ukulele, maybe with a little bit of Super Mario is kind of the vibe I got from it. But it is 3D, like sometimes you'll be doing full 3D roaming, but then there's segments that go to 2D side-scrolling platforming. Okay, so a lot of stuff in this game. The question that I have is this going to be just another Banjo-Kazooie? Because we just played ukulele, you know what I mean? Like, it didn't show anything. Wow, I've never seen that in a platforming game before. It was more like, okay, you got a spinning tail attack, you can bounce on a spring to super jump, you're collecting coins. Typical platforming fare. If you're looking for that, great. But being that ukulele was just out, I don't know how many people are like craving more platforming games, but so that's coming out. Didn't have a release date for that one though. Cuphead, finally. Cuphead, we've seen Cuphead at E3 for like 3 friggin' years. I'm pretty sure it's been 3 years we've seen this game. It finally has a fucking release date. So mark your calendar, September 29th. Cuphead is finally releasing. If you don't know what Cuphead is, it looks to be a side-scrolling shooter, think like Metal Slug, okay? A game like that, only there's a lot of unique things. The graphical style is like an old-school cartoon. It looks like there's going to be various different styles of gameplay integrated into it. So it seems like it's pretty interesting. Hopefully the game turns out well. I actually am interested in that one. So Cuphead finally, end of September. Then they did a montage, because everyone knew earlier in this press conference, when Phil Spencer said there's going to be 42 new games we're presenting, you knew that they weren't going to actually present every game. They were going to at some point do a montage and just completely gloss over a good 10 to 20 games, which is exactly what they did. I'll be honest here. The only game that even stood out for me during this montage was this game called Observer, where it seems like it's another one of these first-person exploration games, but it's a survival horror. There's people who are dead and brutally murdered, and it looks like you're trying to figure out what happened in this, like, techie, futuristic world or something like that. Again, it's a montage. You didn't even get to hear audio or anything from the game, so who knows what the fuck it actually is about. But outside of that, every other game, and I'm not exaggerating here, every other single game in this montage looked to me like a mobile game. It looked like a game that you could play on your phone, so why would you care about playing it on your Xbox One, or hell, buying an Xbox One X to play it? I don't know. I don't know. Then they promoted that they've had over 500 of these indie-style games released on Idea Xbox, which is basically kind of the same indie thing they did on Xbox 360. Now they do it on Xbox One, so they're touting their indies and stuff. Then they had a game called Ashen, where I guess there's a darkness and light mechanic, and it's an RPG where there's combat and survival, and it just didn't look very original. I really don't have much to say about it. I just don't. Life is Strange 2 was announced, but not really, because it's not called Life is Strange 2. It's called Life is Strange Before the Storm, and it seems like it's a pseudo-sequel that actually is going to answer questions about the game. Because if you remember, some of the big lingering questions in Life is Strange, like, what really did happen to Rachel, and who was she? Because you never really got to find out about that person who was a big part of the game, but never was, she was part of it, but never was a character that you controlled or interacted with, right? So it's kind of like a prequel, but not, because you play as the same protagonist from the first game, and she's older now, but it seems like she's going to go back in time to meet Rachel. kind of a weird premise. And one of the things that stood out for me is it's only 3 episodes, so obviously it's not a full-on, full-length game like the original Life is Strange was. If anything, it seems to me what happened was Life is Strange ended up being such a sales hit, which maybe they didn't expect, that now they said, well, let's just do it for the hell of it to make an expansion to maybe have unanswered questions and stuff answered, because we really kind of leave it hanging there at the end, and I think that's what this is going to be. So, Life is Strange Before the Storm, Episode 1 is releasing on August 31st, and they didn't give, obviously, a time frame for the other 2 episodes, but I would assume probably 1 or 2 more by the end of the year. Okay. Okay. On to my final page of notes. So, Shadow of Mordor. Now everyone says, wrong, wrong, wrong. It was Chloe. Wrong, wrong, wrong. It was Chloe. It's a prequel. Wrong, wrong, wrong. The main character was Chloe before she dyes her hair. Well, I'm glad you all knew that, because they didn't say that in the trailer, so I don't know if you looked it up or whatever, but I didn't realize that. I guess it's Chloe before she dyed her hair. It's a prequel, and it explains Rachel's story. So there you go. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong. As the stream chat just told me. Fake news. Okay. Shadow of Mordor got a large segment on the Microsoft press conference. All right. And I gotta say, I was kind of shocked by a few things during this presentation. All right. First of all, they said we're expanding the Nemesis system. There's going to be more kinds of orcs in the game that have unique fighting styles. And basically, there's going to be more to it. It's going to be more complex. You'll be able to level up your minion armies and command your minion armies to do things and all this kind of stuff. But then when they actually started showing the game, the graphics look way different from the first game. They look more cartoony. The game is far more bright. If you remember, the first Mordor game was very dark. All right, it was very dark. Oh, sorry, it's not Shadow of Mordor, it's Shadow of War. Right, I wrote down the wrong thing. The new Mordor game, I'm just gonna call it. It was very dark. The lighting, everything was dark. This game, everything's like bright. Sun is out, bright, sunny. Everyone looks happy. It looks like you're in the middle of a fucking meadow, seriously. And the graphics too, they look more cartoony. They actually look like they have less detail to the graphics than the original game did. I don't know why they did that. And the talk, oh my god, the dialogue. It's like talky. Like the first guy you meet, he's gabbing. He's a giant orc. He's gabbing to this small orc. Gab, 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 gab. Then they finally fight. He kills him. Gab, 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 gab. Okay. Then you come in. You shoot the orc. Oh, now you're going to have a duel. Oh, look. Gab, 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 gab. He's like still talking. Like, what the fuck is he talking so much for? In the first Mordor game, there was like a little line of dialogue here or there. This is like giant fucking elaborate dialogue now that they've added to the game, which is just so bizarre to me. The combat looks good, you know, doing the usual Mordor-style combat. You're going to have different abilities and everything. And then finally, at the end of the fight, again, you recruit the guy. Gab, 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 gab. Oh, my God. I don't know. So then they show, oh, the game will be bigger. It'll have more areas than ever before. It's the biggest scale Mordor game that we've done. It's much bigger than the first game. And then they show you storming a castle. Basically, you bring your giant army with you to come storm a castle that's already, or not really a castle, a fort, you know, with orcs that are defending it, and there's a big, you know, the fight combat breaks out. The game looks good. The combat mechanics look good, and if they did improve that Nemesis system, it looks good. But for me, the visual style of the just less detailed graphics, more light than the first game, and the dialogue that seems like cheery, I don't know, man. Like, it seems like they went a different direction. Maybe I'm wrong, but it just seemed weird to me. It didn't seem like the same game as the first one that I played a couple years ago. Okay, oh, and then one other final thing. It looks like there's actually going to be, like, cyborg orcs. Orcs that have, like, metal arms and metal faces. I guess if they got injured in combat, they found this new way to repair themselves. So that's another thing they threw in there. Ori 2 is coming out. That's all I have to say. I played Ori 1. I found it boring. People watching me found it boring. I stopped playing it, never finished it. Ori 2 is coming out. So anyone who liked Ori 1, the sequel's coming out. Good for you. Then Phil Spencer made a giant announcement, another one. He says, a lot of people love the backwards compatibility that we're constantly adding to the list of games that are backwards compatible. for the Xbox One that are Xbox 360 titles. Well, now we're announcing we're going to do backwards compatibility for original Xbox titles, okay? Starting with Crimson Skies, which is one of the I guess one of the best games for the original Xbox. I don't know, I never played it. And he announces that this new program will start in late 2017, and then original Xbox titles will eventually become more and more backwards compatible with Xbox One over time. Great. Then he says there are 5 particular games that if you already own them for the original Xbox One, that they will get free upgrades to 4K resolution if you buy the Xbox One X. And those games are Gears of War 4, Forza, Forza Horizon, the one I played last year, Forza Horizon 3, I think it's called, Killer Instinct, Halo Wars 2, and of course, Minecraft. We gotta still fucking mention Minecraft. So those are the 5 games. If you own them, great. It's basically saying you already own games for the Xbox One X that are going to be 4K, so good for you. You don't have to buy new games. All right, and then finally, he announced the one thing that everyone had been wanting to know all press conference, right? You talked about the new console, you talked about its features, you talked about 4K resolution, 60 frames per second, the hardware in it. What does it cost? And he came up and he said, ladies and gentlemen, the Xbox One X will cost $999 US. No, I'm kidding. He did not say that. He did not say that. No. The Xbox One X is $499 United States dollars, okay? Some people already immediately said, oh, no, but the PS4 Pro is $100 cheaper. So if you're looking for an upscale console, you already have a cheaper option in Sony, and is that going to be a negative for Microsoft? Is this thing not going to sell? For me, the way I see it, you have the hardcore Microsoft fans who are going to probably buy it anyway. And then if you're in the market for a console, I think really it might depend on what games. Like, what games are going to really run at that full 4K resolution on the Xbox One X versus what games are going to get some kind of an advantage on the PS4 Pro, and maybe then you make your educated decision. One thing I will say, 4K Blu-ray player. I'll say it again. You know, that having that 4K Blu-ray player built into the Xbox One X gives it an advantage because it has a dual purpose. It's not just a gaming console, and that's a huge thing, okay? Keep in mind, the PS4 Pro, right, didn't have that. It doesn't have the 4K Blu-ray player. So right there, if I'm going to buy one and I want the one with the most features, you're going to go for the Xbox One X, right? I mean, I would, if really, honestly, right now, if I had a 4K TV, I would buy the Xbox One X because I want that Blu-ray player. That would be my personal choice. But how many people actually have a 4K TV and they're going to be worrying about this is the real question here, in my opinion, anyway. All right. So, the final thing. Sorry, because I almost forgot. The final thing that happened at the press conference was Anthem, which we knew was coming because if you watched the EA press conference yesterday, EA said, oh, a new IP that, you know, from our developers at BioWare, Anthem, and we'll talk about that tomorrow at Microsoft. And everyone was like, isn't the point of your press conference to actually announce the new games? Like, it was very confusing. Finally, now they went into detail and they actually showed gameplay, all right? So, it's a new IP. It's a cooperative game. You don't have to play it cooperatively, but it looks like a game that's made for co-op. You're basically in mech suits. Think Iron Man, okay? That's kind of literally what these suits are. Mech warrior suits or Iron Man suits. And it shows this person getting into a suit and flying with their jet boots, you know, propelling them just like Iron Man through this open world jungle. And as they're going around, they're looking around for different, you know, they're scanning the areas for different items and things. They touch down, all of a sudden they see some monsters off in the distance. They ignore that group of monsters. They keep going. And then they find a group of monsters surrounding, I guess, what they thought was loot or a chest or something. And so the guy just, like, does, like, a little tweaking. It kind of looked like War Machine, like, boop, boop, boop. All of a sudden, these big rockets came out of his shoulders, and it shot, like, cluster bomb missiles down at the enemies. Boom, 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 just blew the hell out of all of them. They went and grabbed loot, and it was like, oh, epic loot. It was a good gun. I'm so happy that I got this gun. So then they kept exploring, they fought a few more enemies, and then more people cooperatively joined them, so by the end there's 4 people who are actually playing this game together, and then they find this like big thing that looks like a dimensional rift, and they fly into it, and that's the end of it. So if anything, there's a few things I have to say. First of all, the open world exploration mechanic, by being able to fly through it, was actually quite neat. I actually did like that. It seems like there's a lot of freedom and movement, and the control of the flying seemed really smooth. And that could be really cool to have 4 people all exploring the map, you know, all flying around, and someone finds something, the other people hightail it over there to help them with like a big co-op fight or something. That could be pretty neat. The gameplay didn't look generic because it wasn't a fucking first-person shooter. You know, I hate to say it. All these co-op games these days are first person. This one seems like it's going to be this mech combat third-person style, which is pretty cool. I like that. You also could go underwater, which is something I forgot to mention. At one point, the suit goes underwater and says, oh, there's a cave down there you can explore. So because you're in a mech suit, you could go underwater as well. You don't have to worry about oxygen. That's kind of cool because now you have above ground and below ground that you can also check out, and I did enjoy that as well. There's also weather effects. During the demo that they played, all of a sudden a storm came in, it started raining, and it looked really cool. It actually startled some of the wild creatures out in the jungle. They started running through the jungle because they were scared by the lightning or whatever. And that was kind of cool too. I will say this again, you gotta wonder, is Anthem gonna be a game that is really fun to play with friends because it's co-op oriented, but if you try to play it by yourself, it's boring as dirt? Is it going to be a game that the gameplay hooks you and you want to keep playing it because the gameplay is robust and different? Or is it going to be the kind of game that you get bored with the gameplay, but it's fun because you're playing it with friends? The one thing I will say that for a game like this versus a game like Sea of Thieves, this game, the mechs seem very different. Like, the one style of mech that you were following was very much like Iron Man, but there was another mech that looked like a big tank, and I'm wondering, is the gameplay significantly different dependent on the mech class that you pick? You know, obviously that remains to be seen. We have no idea. We don't know when the game's coming out. We have no idea how close we are to actually seeing this game be released or anything like that, so we're not going to get those answers yet. But for me, this kind of game, alright, appeals to me versus a game like Sea of Thieves. I feel like I'd get bored of that game in 5 minutes, alright? And that was it for Microsoft's press conference, okay? So, in summary, a lot of talk about the Xbox One X, okay? A lot the specs of it, the fact that it's going to run games in 4K and it's going to run them in 60 frames, but then they didn't run any games at 60 frames on the stream, which really confused me. Honestly, the games that really interested me at the Microsoft press conference were, let's go through them, Assassin's Creed Origins, which is multi-platform, Shadow of War, Mordor Shadow of War, multi-platform, Anthem, which is multi-platform. You kind of see what I'm getting at? They said, oh, there's 22 console exclusives, and out of all the console exclusives they talked about, there was one that I was really interested in, State of Decay 2. And that's pretty much it. Like, all the other games, okay, great, but they're not, like, system sellers. I'm not going to run out and buy the Xbox One X to play fucking Cuphead or Ori 2. You know what I mean? I need a game that's a system seller, and they didn't really say, here's a big bombshell game you weren't expecting that's going to sell this fucking console. Boom! You got to get it in November now because of it. Instead, it was kind of like, well, you're already going to have games that are going to look even better in 4K, so you should get the console because you want to play your same games you like now in a better resolution. I don't think that's the selling point of the console. I think they need a killer app, and they didn't really show off a killer app at this conference, which I think could be a big problem trying to sell this new console in November, unless the hardcore, ravenous, Microsoft fans are always going to go for it. Also, you got the price point issue. PS4 Pro, $400, already going to run the multi-platform games better. Xbox One X, $500. If you don't care about 4K Blu-rays, there is no advantage of getting one over the other, because like I said, the exclusives weren't very good, so I don't know. Was all this build-up for Project Scorpio and everything really all just fluff and a non-announcement? Or will this console actually have any kind of traction and give us better gaming on consoles? I don't know. The bottom line is, for me, I really don't care. I don't have a 4K TV. I have no plans to upgrade to a 4K TV. I don't think I need to see games in 4K. I think the games look great now. Certainly, capturing and broadcasting in 4K is not something that's very viable right now. Most people can't even handle 1080p streaming and capturing and watching videos now because the internet is not great worldwide. We don't have internet on that level yet. So, are we jumping the gun trying to make all these consoles that'll do 4K gaming? I don't know. I don't know. Some people are completely the opposite mentality, and I've seen people have been saying in the stream chat, well, I have a 4K TV and I'm getting it, I'm sold. I get that, but I don't know if the mainstream person is that person that this is going to become a sales success. You know what I'm saying? All right, so overall, the Microsoft press conference was not bad, but it lacked oomph. It lacked that big wow factor, that big one thing that, wow, I wasn't expecting that, and they totally took me by surprise and blew me away. If they had a console exclusive game for Xbox One X, that was the reason to get it, that might have happened, but they didn't. They just didn't have it, and it kind of ended up being more underwhelming to me than anything else, in my opinion. Alright, so now finally, some quick shout-outs for some more people who did some stuff. We had, wow, we had a ton of people who subscribed. CM Fool subscribed for the 6th month in a row. Thank you, CM Fool, and enjoy your golden crown badge. Mr. Feltz subscribed to the channel for the first time. Thank you, Mr. Feltz. Polathius subscribed to the channel for the first time. Thank you, Polathius. Pass the Curry subscribed for the first time and said, keep it up. Thank you, Pass the Curry. Third Eyed the Third did a $2 tip, and he said, the fact that the Xbox exclusives are also coming to Windows 10 sounds nice at first for us PC elitists, but most of us know how abysmal the Windows Store is. Just look at what happened with the last Remedy game. I don't know what he's talking about, but I guess that could be an issue too. And it's funny because they say, oh, it's an exclusive, but it's not. It's actually Windows 10 and Xbox One X. So if you're a PC enthusiast, why the hell do you need an Xbox One X? The answer is you don't, right? Thank you to Viking, who did a 50-bit cheer. He says, it seems like good hardware. It doesn't seem like a ripoff. I don't think it's a ripoff. I think you're actually getting the value for your buck with the Xbox One X for what's in it. But the question is, will the game developers utilize it? Again, there was not one killer app announced that says, this is the amazing game that you need to play on the Xbox One X, and you need to buy the console for it. It didn't seem like that was at all. It was more like, well, there's the games you already play that you can play on it, right? And like, well, that's not going to sell me on buying a new console. Shout out to Dr. Papavera, who did a $2 tip. He said, DSP tries it, saves the world would be a system seller for Xbox One X. Okay? And finally, thank you to Faramite, who did 10-bit cheer and said hi to my boyfriend, Tom. All right. A cheap shout-out. All right, everyone. So that is it for my recap and reactions to the Microsoft press conference. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it informative. Wasn't a bad press conference. Microsoft has had bad press conferences. It wasn't bad, but it certainly wasn't great. There was nothing there that was like, wow. And everything that was like good ended up being cross-platform. You know what? And I'll close by saying this because I did notice this and I forgot to write a note about it. Did you notice something this year that was missing, that was present at the past 2 Microsoft press conferences the past 2 years and was completely missing whatsoever from this one? Augmented reality, folks. Remember how they had those big, giant tables? Oh, look, it's Minecraft in augmented reality. Oh, look, and then they had another one. It was like an action-adventure scenario in augmented reality. Because remember, they were trying to compete with the PSVR and all that stuff, so they wanted to show that they were working on some kind of new reality project, too. Completely gone. They didn't mention it at all, and they heavily were pushing that shit the past 2 years, so I found it very suspect that all of a sudden they just dropped it like it's a non-issue, because they never released it. It never really came out. No one could do it. It never came out, right? There's no games that use it, so they're pushing this thing for 2 years to try to say that, oh, we're going to be competitive with everyone else, and then they just dropped it. All right, everyone. Thank you for watching my reactions and recap of the Microsoft press conference. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll continue to check out all my recap and reactions, either live on Twitch or on the King of Hate vlogs right after they happen. Thanks for watching. I'll see you for the rest of E3. Peace out, everybody.